The definition of failure is the state or condition of not meeting a desirable or intended objective and may be viewed as the opposite to success. My whole life, I've always viewed failure, I don't know about you, as a negative, something to be avoided and even to be ashamed about. But what I'm going to share with you this morning is a way that you can view failure as a way to getting closer to success. So did you know that you're only ever in one of three states? You're either blaming, justifying, or growing. If you remember this, it's really powerful, and I believe it can actually change your life. So if, like I have in the past, you view failure as a negative, you'll always be either blaming or you'll be in justifying mode. Therefore, you cannot be growing. And I don't know about you, but I want to live a life, a big life, and find ways to grow and be better every single day. Now, you can tell a successful person by the size of the problems that get them down. So my wish for you all in the Positive Vibes community is that from today, you take 100% responsibility for you. And most importantly, protect your energy, because you are the architect of your life. Everything is how you've created it, so you need to own it. When we fail, we often look for excuses. We blame the failure on things that have happened to us rather than for us. But how these events affect us in the long run depends on how we respond to them. So if you want to start seeing improvements in any area of your life, you need to change your responses. It's often not the event that produces an outcome, it's often how we react to that event. An event can be anything from a thought or a feeling to traffic, the weather, even a person. Basically anything that's outside of your control and which you can't change. Life is a never-ending flow of events, and we cannot predict or control the way these events will unfold. Now, have you ever seen two people experience the same event, but with completely different results or outcomes based on their response? For example, if you're stuck in traffic, obviously not right now, we're not going to be in much traffic right now, but if you're stuck in traffic and somebody cuts right in front of you, response number one could be, oh, how rude was that person? I am so cross, that they could have just caused a massive accident. People can be so selfish. I'm now in a really bad mood. Idiots like this shouldn't be on the road. Or response number two, that was really uncalled for. I don't want to let this affect my mood and cause me to drive erratically. I'm going to take a deep breath, I'm going to smile, and I'm going to accept that they must be in a real hurry to get somewhere. So it's the same event, but two very different responses. And it's so easy to justify your results and blame others and the situation. But instead of making excuses, why not ask, what can I do better? And what lessons have I learned? So decide today to become solution focused. Decide to let go of whatever story you're telling yourself that isn't serving you. Accept your circumstances. Know that your challenges and fears were valid at the time, but you're moving on and finding a solution. And if you can do this, I believe you can achieve anything. Now, a great technique to use to get yourself out of a negative state is this simple pivot method, which I learned at my virtual global training conference last month. So it's called the pivot technique. If you've ever watched Friends, just saying that word reminds me of Ross climbing up the stairs with the sofa shouting pivot. So that will immediately make you feel happy. But when you feel your mood or energy changing, use this word and ask yourself, what do I love? What do I enjoy doing? Think of the things that light you up, and I guarantee it will immediately change your mood. But once you've identified the problem, which you may perceive as a failure, and you've changed your mood using the method or the technique that I've just said, how can you take that problem or the obstacle that you're faced with and turn it into a positive? The best way I found to do this is using a 4-step process, which I learned from life coach Heather Choi. Now, in your own time, I've got a few people on, so if you get a chance to do this, please do it. In your own time, write down or describe your most recent failure. So think of something big, something that keeps you up at night. Because when you can turn around a big failure, it's really easy to turn around the small ones. So what did you lose? What didn't happen that you expected to happen? What broke your heart? Or what made you feel disappointed? Be honest with yourself and journal for around 10 to 15 minutes, but no longer than 15 minutes, because it's actually very unproductive and it doesn't show positive results if you go over 15 minutes with journaling. So set a timer and give yourself that time today to do this. And I would love to hear some of your comments as well. So you can apply this in all areas of your life, your business, your personal life, your relationships, your friendships, your health, and your exercise. I recently used this technique for one of my fitness goals. It was for my first ever marathon. I trained really hard to run the race in under 4 hours. That was my goal. But because I didn't take on enough fluid or carbs and I hadn't prepared or trained hard enough, in my opinion, I didn't achieve this goal. And in my eyes, I failed. So the first step in the process for you to turn around a failure is this. Number one, acceptance. Accept that you've failed. After you've accepted the loss of that possibility that you were so convinced was going to happen, know that an infinite number of new options and possibilities will appear in its place when you accept it. So once you've described the failure in your journal and you've written down everything that you feel went wrong, and be as detailed as you can, write 3 times after that, I cannot change this failure, I can only learn from it. So do that 3 times. And then that will get you in the right mindset to think what's done is done and the past is the past. So this is when it comes back to the event plus response equals outcome. You can either choose to accept what's happened and sit in a very negative place with your feelings, or you can choose this very active form of acceptance, which will actually move you out of that feeling of negativity. And to do this, you must think about what's true. So there are 2 types of truth. There are the true facts, and then how you interpret them, which can be very different to how someone else interprets them. And then there are the facts that are outside of you. For example, as I said a minute ago, I completed my marathon in 4 hours and 5 minutes. So after you've done this, after you've used that acceptance technique, then get curious about what happened. You've looked at the truth, you've looked at the actual facts, you've mourned the loss of what didn't happen, and you've moved on. Now you need to get curious about why you failed and what you can do about this. So this is step number 2, get curious. Curiosity is a way to look through a problem. So you can use curiosity to brainstorm new ideas and opportunities that come from your failure. And this is a very, very different energy, and it will help you stop looking back, but to look forward for the possibilities. So rather than staying focused on your fears, because it's really difficult to stop feeling fear, what you can do is use curiosity to quiet that voice in your head that wants you to focus on what went wrong. And over time, that voice will start to diminish. So go back to your failure and start to get curious about why it happened and what you can learn from it and what doors this failure can open for you in the future. So this one technique, I believe, will help you to build resilience to failure. It's why when you're on the floor and you're down and your inner voice is telling you not to get back up, you must know why you're doing it. Because without your why, you can really get lost and it's really easy to stay down. And this is where using empowering language can really help. Again, this is something that I learned from an online business training last weekend. And this one piece of advice alone could potentially change your life. So at the end of each day or at the end of an activity, if you felt like it didn't work well or you failed, ask yourself this question, get curious. So you can ask yourself today, for example, this is probably one that's quite big on people's lists at the moment, why didn't I eat very well today? You could tell yourself, I didn't have enough time to make healthy food. I don't feel in the right place to eat healthy. And that sounds okay and it's a valid excuse. So it's justified, right? But if you tell yourself and use a different type of language, that I didn't make it a priority, it then feels very different to you. So again, why didn't you exercise like you said you would do today? Well, I was just too tired and I ran out of time to fit that in. Again, it sounds like a valid excuse, but if you say to yourself, why didn't I exercise today? And you tell yourself, I didn't make it a priority, it's very different. So this is really powerful. Simply changing your language can change your response to everything. So when you get curious about why you failed, please use this method and let me know if it works. So there's actually some science behind this as well. Your reticular activating system, which is at the back of your brain, it's a very small, size of a walnut, needs to engage with your why. Now this reticular activating system processes 4,000 thoughts per second compared to the rest of your conscious brain, which processes 40. So it picks up on your environment at a much faster pace. So when you tap into this part of your unconscious brain to start programming the brain on what it's paying attention to, you don't actually have to think positively all the time. Now, I personally have probably shamed myself many, many times in the past for thinking negative thoughts, but actually you can't possibly control all your thoughts. You're going to have some negative ones that come in, but it's how you deal with them that's really, really important. So here's a practical way of looking at this, and think the law of attraction here. If you know much about the law of attraction, you'll get this, and how your thoughts can create your reality. So say, for example, you are sitting on a park bench and you're looking at a crossing and you see a couple of people crossing the street, one here and one here. If you woke up today in a positive frame of mind, after you've done your morning affirmations, and you said that today I'm going to focus on the world being a wonderful, positive place, then you would have seen the person over here who helped the old lady who fell over, and they helped them to get back up. But if you woke up and you told yourself that the world is in a state of turmoil right now, nobody's got your back, everyone is out for themselves, then you would have missed that kind act over here, but you would have seen this other person over here who crossed the road, dropped some litter and didn't pick it up. So we program our brains to pick up on certain types of material and to scan our environment for what we expect to see. So when we build resilience to failure, we can program our conscious and unconscious brain to start tracking what we want and to create more of what we want in our lives. So what this looks like is failing a lot and learning that you have the skills to get back up. So step number 3 is actively learning from your failure. So what can you change? How can you use this new information to take advantage of future opportunities? And this is where we learn through failures, and what they actually do is they shape our core being and they shape our authenticity. So you can start using your failures to create growth. And then step number 4 is to apply this knowledge to your daily life and actively make a change. So if you want to create success in your life and you want to create resiliency to failure, that's what you need to start telling yourself. Every day, just spend a small amount of time looking at what didn't work and spend the majority of time looking at the possibilities for the future. And every time you fail, ask yourself why and start to create good from it. Just like a muscle, when your muscle tears and it breaks after exercise, when it repairs itself, it becomes stronger. And that's what you can be using this method. So to sum it up, say to yourself, this happened, I observe it, then feel the emotions, whatever they may be for you, sadness, anger, whatever they are, don't push them away, but feel them, and then accept it. Learn from it, get curious about it, and ask yourself, what are the benefits? Because this will build your character and your authentic self, because what you learn through the failure process will shape you. It's okay to fail to shape your growth. And every time you use this, you're training your brain to focus on success. So once you understand that failure can turn into growth, you can start to have a really authentic relationship with you. You'll start to attract people to you and into your life that understand you. It's very easy in life to want to be like someone else. If you aren't quite in touch with who you are authentically, then you can think it's better to be like someone more successful than you. But each failure will bring you closer to your true self if you let it. So a good analogy that I used last night to understand this was if you decide that apples are better than oranges and you're an orange, but you're trying to come across as an apple because you think they're better, and someone passes by and they decide that today I actually fancy an apple, so they choose you. But when they bite into the apple, they realise that you're actually just an orange, and that's not what they wanted. So the point is, be you, because if you aren't comfortable with who you are, and that's not to say that you shouldn't grow and want to be a better version of you, make sure it's you. Don't get lost in the process, because you will miss so many opportunities to connect with people that really and truly get you. And remember this, you can be the best version of you. You can be the sweetest, most juiciest orange around, but somebody somewhere is still not going to like oranges. So I encourage you this week to discover who you are authentically. Because if you aren't in touch with your authentic self, other people's opinions of you are going to hurt. You must love yourself the most and be confident in who you are, so that everyone else's opinions of you don't matter, because you know yourself best. And when you have this realization that you know yourself better than anybody else ever can, you've been with yourself for the most time of your life, right? You're the most qualified to be your best friend. You are the most qualified to love yourself. You are the most qualified to tell yourself to get back up because you're worth it. Don't look to somebody else to give you that pep talk. Take full responsibility for your life by accepting your failures, learning from them, and growing. So, go and use this 4-step process this week, and please let me know how it helps. Don't forget, repetition is key to anything till it becomes a habit. So apply what you've learned from today, learn from your failures, and use them for your new obstacles and challenges to make better choices in the future. If you choose to live big, you're going to fail a lot. But now you know there's a difference between a negative form of failure and a type of failure that helps you grow. And when you learn to use the second type in a positive way, you'll actually decrease the first. So learn to accept when an opportunity has passed. Say goodbye because it's gone. You don't have it anymore. It's not coming back. And then redirect your energy towards endless possibilities for the future. You don't have to look to the outside world for validation. Just show up as you, and that is enough, I guarantee. Tell yourself, no matter what, this is who I am. Affirm every day that I view failure as a positive, and I know how to turn it around and become a better version of me because of it. Your past is your journey, so honour it, but leave it behind and look forward, and someday your past will inspire somebody else and give them hope. So I trust this will have inspired some of you in the group today to view failure in a much more positive way from now on. Don't forget, Thomas Edison attempted to create the light bulb many, many times, but he chose to believe that he hadn't failed and that he really only just found 10,000 reasons or 10,000 ways why it didn't work. Many of life's perceived failures are just people who didn't realize just how close they were to success when they gave up.